Today is a big day in my photography life because I just today picked up my new Nikon D7500 to support, or not replace, but support my Nikon D5600. This one has been with me for a year or so, and I want to go through why I chose to upgrade from this one to this one. But I also want to initially just give you some food for thought regarding DSLRs. And then I want to take you through before I forget it, and that's why I make this video today, I want to take you through some of my first initial observations of this one, right out of the box. What are my thoughts compared to this one? But let me start out with saying that I will not go through all the technical specifications and differences between these two cameras. There is a very good homepage called Camera Decision that I can highly recommend. I will post a link to it in the comments field. And there you can see all the technical mumbo jumbo and all the technical differences between these two cameras. So that's not for today. But I will give you some of the highlights of the difference between these two. Before I start, I want to raise three things as a sort of reflection on your side before you choose to invest in either of these two cameras. I think first of all you need to think about whether this is, you can say, what is future proof? Nothing is, but at least you could run the risk that this is technology on its way out. I think the jury is still out on that one, but here I have a little Sony mirrorless camera. It's absolutely fantastic. It takes some great pictures, and maybe this is the future. Maybe cameras without any moving parts, apart from the lens of course, is the future. Difficult to say, but I just want you to think about, before you spend money on a DSLR, I think it's worth considering if this is a future technology. Don't get me wrong, this one produces digital output, this one does, and that one does. But they do come with a limited lifespan in terms of number of actuations. I think it's a worth of consideration. Second thing is, these are both cropped sensor cameras, and I think if you are considering full frame, then you need to think about very different cameras than these two. So I think why I've been going back and forth in my mind a lot about whether I should go for full frame or not. But I think actually watching a guy like James Popsis, who's a professional photographer, saying that, and he's a landscape photographer that is, saying that he went for I think it was micro 3/3, which is an even smaller sensor than these are. I think that was one thing that convinced me. I saw several videos also where I basically couldn't tell the difference between the full frame and the APS-C, and that in combination I think convinced me. And then maybe the final argument was, and there was also James Popsis who said that you have to remember that all of this gear you actually have to carry. So whether you're on a hike or you are just on a vacation where you want to shoot some pictures, you have to carry the heavy glass. And full frame glass is, because it's a larger area, it's always heavier. It can't be any different. And then of course on top of this comes the price. But yeah, so these were my considerations. I think also you should be aware that none of these two are professional grade cameras, and I think there has been a lot of confusion because this was the predecessor to this one. There were actually two cameras, the 7100 and the 7200, and both of those had dual card slots. This one doesn't. And I think that's where you can sort of see that this is not a professional grade camera, and this is for the prosumer or the consumer. So be aware that none of these two cameras have dual card slots. If you want to go to professional level on APS-C, I think it's clear that you need to go to D500, the model above this one, but it also costs approximately double of this one, so that's why I figured I could do with this one, but I will get back to that in a little while. I think also you should be aware that this one, if you can live with one SD slot, you also here on the back side, and this goes also for this camera here, none of these come with the possibility for battery grip. So if you shoot a lot of portrait, or simply want to flip the camera and be able to have the shutter sitting here, this is simply not possible on this camera, and it's because Nikon simply doesn't make battery grips for these cameras. And again, I think it's because they are clearly positioned as non-professional cameras. So, okay, there you have it. Those were sort of my reflections. So, if you want to go professional, D500. If the dual card slot is important for you, you should go for the D7100 and the D7200. And if you want to go full frame, this video is not for you. So why have I upgraded? Why have I gone from the 5600 to the 7500? I think there were several reasons, and it always comes down to personal preferences, as always. And I think one thing that I missed in this camera was maybe a small thing, but those of you who see my other videos know that I buy old Nikon lenses, and therefore having an in-body camera motor or autofocus motor that you can see here is pretty important, so that I maintain autofocus also on the older lenses. That was definitely one of my considerations in buying this camera. The second thing was that I missed 4K video. I do a little bit of video recording as well, and I think 4K is noticeably better than 1080. So I wanted to have that, and I know about the crop sensor thing, that it's heavily cropped when you do video on this one, but still I think the examples I've seen look very promising. So I really look forward to using this 4K video. Then this one has the same sensor as the D500, and that means the dynamic range in this camera is somewhat better than this one. Also, you have a better CPU, I think it is, the Expeed 5, the chip that processes the image is way faster, and that's also why in general this one can shoot more frames per second than this one. I think this one is 8 frames per second, whereas this one is 5 frames per second. And this one clearly has a better autofocus system. It is not the same as in the D500, which is, I think, one of the best available at all. But it is very, very good for a prosumer, and I think that I will be more than happy with the focus system in this camera. Then it also goes down to something that has been annoying me a little bit with this one. Maybe not so many that have this issue, but this one will the max shutter speed is 1/4000th of a second. This one is 1/8000th. And for some reason I often, when I shoot against the sun and so on, find that this one I reach the limit. So I look forward to having a little bit faster shutter speed here. And then finally, two things related to, I would call it, ergonomics. One thing is that I use glasses. So I think using the viewfinder on this one is a little bit, I don't know how to say it, but the less I have to look in the viewfinder, the better. Maybe a contradiction in terms when you're a photographer, but if I can minimize the time spent in the viewfinder, so to speak, then that's a plus for me. And I think a lot of the work that I do is actually, adjusting the ISO, adjusting the aperture, and so on and so forth. So I look forward to having the LCD for doing that. And then I think my expectation is also that the ergonomics is a little bit better, because you can see it's a bigger body. It is significantly larger. I don't know in percentage how large it is, but also on this Camera Decision homepage you can find the specific differences. But I hope that I will be more pleased with the size, but also because I have a big hand. That's part of the picture. So better ergonomics and the fact that there is an LCD screen. So what are my initial observations? I guess that's the meat here of this video. Actually, first off, I was quite disappointed. I must admit that. And that's why I decided to make this video. I think my immediate reaction was that first when I grabbed the camera, you can see there is this little metal thing here for attaching the strap. And here it's well hidden. You can see it doesn't stick out. But here immediately it was an unpleasant feeling, because this one sits exactly where I want to put my hand. The second thing I noticed, which is not a positive thing either, is you can see, I don't know if you can see here, but there's a little button sitting here that sticks out. So when I grab the camera, it actually felt a bit unpleasant, as if I had a scar on my finger here or something like that. And as I use this shoulder here very much when I walk around with my camera, I think this was really not a good first impression. And then finally, this camera here is, in my mind, is built like a tank. The buttons are metal. You can hear it, and when you turn it, it's a good solid sound, and you can hear over here. This one is plastic. I'm sure it will last, but I mean, it's just. I was surprised. I'm going one series up, going to a prosumer level, and also this button over here, the button one here, where I changed the burst mode. It's very flimsy and plastic-ish in my mind. So not impressed at all. That was my first meet with this new camera. So what then? Well, I think that after using the camera just for 10 minutes, things got better, and there are other things that comes to your mind. First thing is that the shutter, the viewfinder. I mean, one of the reasons why I bought this camera was actually in the hope that the LCD here would help me. And what I found was the viewfinder is so much better. I will see if I can put in some pictures in this video where I show you. It is so much brighter, and it is so much, the letters in the bottom of the viewfinder where you see the aperture and the shutter speed and so on, they are so much clearer than they are on this one. Here the letters are green, and over here they are sort of gray or white, and it is so much clearer to view. So actually looking into the viewfinder here, which also has larger magnification, looking into the viewfinder here is a much more pleasant experience, and that means a lot. I mean, I was surprised how big the difference was going from here to here. It was like going from a computer game from the 80s to something, on an iPhone today. It was two different worlds. So I can only say that the initial impression in the viewfinder much better, and I really look forward for that. The other thing I noticed is that the flip out screen here, which is not pivoting as this one is, it appears to be much more solidly made. So where some parts of this was a bit more flimsy, I think this here feels a little more flimsy. I have never had an issue with this one, I should say that right away. But over here, it really feels solid, and it also has a nice sound when you close the LCD here like this. So all in all, I think that I look forward to using this one, but I must say, in terms of ergonomics, my initial impression was not impressed. Was that I was not impressed. So there you have it. I hope that has helped you a little bit in your decision. And as said, I will post links below to camera decisions, so you can see all the technical details, and also that, for instance, this one to the left here has 4,000 more pixels in the sensor that this one has, but apparently, as far as I can see from reviews, that has no influence on picture quality. So very much looking forward to using this new one, and I would say finally I think I made a very good deal. I think it's because DSLRs with mirrors, they will be under price pressure as these things sort of take market share, and that's why I think you can make a very good deal on a DSLR, either new as I did, where I got this lens on top for almost nothing, or used or refurbished. I think you are in for a very good deal. So if you are into a camera like this, I can highly recommend to also you investigate the market for used cameras, because more and more want these. Okay, thank you for watching. Take care. Bye bye.